Hey, good morning, guys. My name is Cody. I get to be one of the pastors here at the table, and we're going to be finishing up our relationship series today. And so I'm going to read out of Proverbs 13:20, and then we're going to go through and talk about 7 different kinds of people that some of them you want in your life, some of them you don't want in your life, and we're just going to go ahead and name them, okay? Not like by their name, but anyway. You might, when I'm going through these, you might have people that pop into your mind. That's fine. But anyway, Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 says this: "Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm." Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we pray that you would help us walk with the wise. God, we pray that you would convict us and show us, enlighten us where we've been a companion of fools, and that you'd help us to prioritize our time better. God, that we would seek to follow you more than following our own wills and our own wants and passions, but Lord, that we would just humbly recognize that your way is best. So God, would you speak today? We ask it in Jesus' good name. Amen. Amen. So you can go ahead and have a seat. Again, if you're coming in late, my name's Cody. I know it's kind of a little bit of a thinner crowd here today. Sickness and everything else going on. But we're going to, I want to talk about these 7 C's. 7 C's. And we're going to be all over the place. It's not like our regular expositional going through a book of the Bible. But we're wrapping up this relationship series. And I hope that it encourages you just to look at these things. So 7 C's. Here they are real quickly. Coaches, comrades, casuals, colleagues, care-fors, chronics, and contaminants. Okay? Contaminants are the ones that you don't want. Chronics are the ones that you might not be able to avoid, but you need to limit your time with. Care-fors, kind of in the same way, but they're a little bit more legitimate. But it's those other 4 that you really need to put more of your time and energy into, and let them put more of time and energy into you as well. So we're going to go ahead and just walk through these real quick. So coaches. You don't need coaches putting a whole lot of time into your life. Here's why: because you can't afford it. Okay? If you're going to get a coach, you're probably going to have to pay for it, and they're going to charge by the hour. And it's a business for them. They're not looking to be your best friend, go to lunch with you, hang out, and spend hours and hours and copious amounts of time with you. Okay? But coaches, the main idea with coaches is get the expertise that you desire, or get the expertise that you need. So a few years back when our daughter got married, I wanted to lose a few pounds, and I did. But I didn't know how to do it, so we hired a coach, a nutrition coach, that said, this is what you should eat. I'm like, you mean Cheez-Its aren't bad? Yeah, Cheez-Its aren't good for you. Don't do that. So, she coached us on how to do that. And I lost some weight, then I gained it all back. Now I'm going back and taking the notes that I had from her and trying to go back and do it again. But a coach is someone who takes others down a path of growth and competency for a specific area. So it may be health-wise, it may be in just coaching in your business, it may be marriage coaching, it may be parent coaching, all those kinds of things. Like what is it? What is the area that you need to grow in? This person has subject matter expertise, they have coaching competence, they have probably good bedside manners, and they're autonomous. Like you should like them and they should like you, but they don't need you to be their best friend, and you don't need them to be your best friend. That's not what the relationship is for. So the question here is, where do you need to grow, and who can help you get there? What area do you need to grow in? What area are you looking for that, and who do you think you could get to coach you? Now, you may find some people that could coach you. Maybe it's an older person in the church or an older person at work that they have more life experience and they can pour into you, and it may not cost anything, may not cost you any money. But coaching is one of those things where you probably are going to have to, you're going to have to shell out some time, and you may have to shell out some dollars for it. Okay? So, but you can't build your life and just have all kinds of coaches in your life and no friends. All right? So that brings us to the second one. This is the one that you need to build. This is basically your life team, your comrades. These are people who are going to be on your team for the long haul. If they're family, you probably have some family members that are part of your life team. That's natural. But you also need to understand, and we'll get into this more next week when we talk about Paul, and specifically this guy named Rufus and his mother, as we talk about Mother's Day. You have family of origin, but you also need family of God. You got to have a foo and you got to have a fog. Okay? And the family of God is meant to compensate or complement the places where your family of origin did not. They didn't help you. If you stay in a close-knit family all your life, and that's all of the influence that you have, and you have no influence from anywhere else, you realize how weird that's going to get, right? There's a reason why the Bible says, "For this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave unto a wife, and they shall become one." If you just if your family of origin, I'm not saying that you should not have good relationships with your family. I'm saying if with your family those are the only good relationships that you have, guess what? The rest of the world thinks you're weird. That you don't want your family to become cultish and insular. Okay? So family of God is where you have, people are talking and they're pouring into you, and a lot of us naturally get it. We naturally understand this because we don't have, like, our family of origins were kind of a dumpster fire. And so the family of God is like a place of refuge, right? Comrades, here's who these people are. They're individuals that know all about you and can handle it all. They know everything about you and they can handle it. Just as you know and can handle everything about them. This is where it goes, it's reciprocal. It's not so much that way with the coaching relationship, but with the comrade it is. It's a give and a take. It's basically the highest and best types of friendships. So here's what you look for in a comrade. And you don't find these things, you don't just find one and say, "Oh, that's going to be it." Well, let me back up. Lori did that with a girl named Janice in like 3rd grade. She walked in there, she saw her nameplate on the deal when they introduced into the classroom. She hadn't even met the girl. And she just chose, she goes, "That's going to be my best friend," in 3rd grade. And she was, and she still is. It just, but not everybody can be Lori. I've been trying to do it for 27 years, and I can't be her. So good luck with it. But basically these comrades develop over time. Okay? He who walks with the wise becomes wise. The companion of fools is going to suffer harm. Don't have fools on your life team. Okay? Don't purposely pursue foolish people as a comrade. Don't do that. The Proverbs is chock full of this. The whole book of Proverbs, just if you want a summary of the book, is a dad with his son on the balcony of their house looking at all these, they're people watching, looking at all these different kinds of people in the city. He goes, "You see that guy right there? He's fixing to screw up his life. Don't be like that guy. He's fixing to walk into a house that he has no business being in, and it's going to strip him and rob him of everything that he owns. That man is a fool. Don't do what he does." He's talking about the adulterer. He looks at other people, he goes, this guy over here that won't work? Yeah, don't be like that guy. Don't be like that guy. His life is going to come to ruin. That's all the Proverbs is. It's a dad with his boy pointing out, don't be like this, don't do that, do this. That's all Proverbs is. And so it comes, he who walks with the wise becomes wise. There's the New Testament version of this is, bad company corrupts good morals. Like, your iron sharpens iron. You need good friendships. This is what the life team is. So here's what you look for. And by the way, the reason I'm passionate about this is because I think women are naturally better at it. I think men struggle with it. I think that most guys who are my age and older they don't have good friendships. They don't have best friends. They have work colleagues, they have all these things, but as far as somebody that they can be truly open and vulnerable with, and they can tell their life and they can share their hurts and stuff, they don't have it. And they're just suffering. And they finally cave under the pressure, tragically sometimes, and they blow up their marriages. They blow up their families. Because they don't have any other comrades, good, the highest quality of best friendships that hold them accountable and love them through their junk. You need it. And I'm telling you, as the older guy in a church full of predominantly younger guys, you better start searching for it now, because you're not going to want to do it when you get my age. You're too old, and you're too cranky, and you don't want to spend the time to do it. You'd rather just sit down and watch Westerns. Okay? I know it's true. That's why I said it. So, what to look for? Here's what to look for. You need to look for shared essential values. You can't have true camaraderie with somebody who doesn't have the same values as you. If you value truth, you're not going to have a close relationship with someone who does not. If you value beauty and excellence, you're not going to have a really, really close friendship with someone who just leaves the lid off the milk jug all the time. That's like, there's going to be things that are going to grate on you. And eat, now marriage, like wives and husbands are looking at each other like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm married to they're supposed to be my comrade, right? Hold on. Yeah, you got to hammer these things out. Shared essential values. Engagement and growth on some type of structural level. You're going to have to be intentional about it. There's going to have to be some structure to it. I know that we talk about these friendships like, this person we just picked up right where we left off. I know that's great, and that's the stuff that rom-coms are made out of, but it's not practical. You're going to have to give time to it. You're going to have to be intentional about it. Here's another thing. You need to have a stance for, not a stance against. If you build a camaraderie or a comradic relationship, I don't even know if comradic is a word or not, but we're going to go with it. If you build a comrade relationship with somebody and based on what you're against, here's just a little trick. Study history. Study the French Revolution. You know what happened to the early adopters of the Revolution? The Revolution ate them. If you're only known for what you're against, eventually the revolution will consume you. You'll get eaten by the revolution that you started. It's better to have a stance what you're for. We're for these things. Number 4, vulnerability. You can't have true camaraderie. You can't have true relationship without a level of vulnerability. You've got to be willing to say, hey, these are the weaknesses, these are my struggles, this is where I'm hurting. And also you have to be willing to sit there in that with them. A comrade is someone who sits with you in it, who can handle it. Not someone who steps outside and says, hey, I'm not going to come down there in that pit with you. I'm going to throw you a rope, but I don't want to get down there in your mess. I'd rather you just come up here to where mine is. Now, ultimately, yeah, you do need to get up out of that mess, but it's hard if it's going to be really hard to have camaraderie with someone who won't get down there in it with you. Okay? Number 5, truthfulness. Again, you gotta speak truth. You got to be willing to be honest. There has to be mutuality. This is a give and take. It's not a coaching relationship. This is a give and take. There needs to be chemistry. This one's a little bit harder. It's kind of like more art. Listen, I'm going to say something it's going to shock some of you, and you're going to be like, I don't know, but I'm just telling you, like, there's going to be some people that you just don't click with. I'll be so bold as to say there's going to be some people that you just don't like. And you don't have to. I just want to free y'all of that right now. I think a lot of stuff gets around in Christianity like, oh, you got to be like Jesus and you got to love everybody. Yeah, you do. But Jesus did not spend a lot of time around people that he did not particularly care for. You say, well, wait a minute. Jesus liked everybody. Really? Really? Have you read the Gospels? Have you really read the Gospels? There were times, I don't even know if Jesus liked some of the disciples. Get behind me, Satan. That's what he told Peter. I bet Peter didn't feel real liked at that moment. Right? Like, he did not spend... You never see Jesus seeking out audiences with, like, the Pharisees. They sought him out, but he didn't go seeking them out. You don't have to like and you don't have to click with everybody. And I'm going to take it a step further. You don't have to click with everybody inside the church. Think of the church not like your immediate family. You need to like everybody in your immediate family. You need to click with them. Sometimes you don't, and it causes a lot of heartache. But that's a given. You need that. But you don't click with everybody at your family reunion. And that's basically what a church is. It's a bunch of crazy aunts and uncles. And they're different. And it's a beautiful thing, but you don't have to just like and click and be best friends with every single person. But you do need to have chemistry. You do need to have a chemistry with a comrade. And you also need to have availability. If you're not going to be available and you're not going to avail yourself to the relationship, don't expect other people to reciprocate and avail themselves to you. It's a give and take. There's a mutuality about it. So here's what you do. Go through your contacts. Seriously, on your phone, go through your contacts and just look at people through your contacts that you just have a gut feeling they have these qualities. Okay? Identify some of them. Okay? Invite one of them to coffee or to lunch. Okay? Just you initiate. Talk to them. Don't say, hey, you want to be my comrade? That's going to be weird. Don't do that. Invite them to lunch and just talk about life and talk about these things. If they open up about vulnerability and something that they're really going through, be present for it. Going back to 2 weeks ago, being present in the conversation. Be present. And then also, get curious, but not intrusive. Ask questions. Why? Get curious about them. Reciprocate and risk your own vulnerability. Express mutuality. Have 2 or 3 more. If that lunch goes well, have 2 or 3 more of them. Okay? And then, if it goes well, make an invitation. Say, hey, I'm trying to build a life team. Not the A team. I'm trying to build a life team. Okay? I'm looking for people that are going to help me become wise. I'm looking for people that are going to help me win at life. I'm going to look for people that are going to help me follow Jesus better and better. And I'm wondering if you would be interested in doing that. And most likely they'll say, yeah, man, I've been looking for something like that. And then just be what you require. Set a structure, set a time, do that. So that's comrades. Number 3, casuals. Casuals make great acquaintances. That's what casuals are. They're not comrades. They're not coaches. These are just people that think of like they're low commitment, enjoyable relationships. Okay? There's probably already a little bit of chemistry there. You know, they may be neighbors, they may be work colleagues, but they're casuals. But they're like you. This is someone who 4 things about them. They help us live in the present, not just the past. What happens a lot of times when we lose a best friend or we lose a friendship, we tend to grieve that and interpret everything else through that relationship. But casuals help us live in the present, and they remind us that life goes on, that there's more fish out there. There's other people that have the potential of being a really good friend. They help us live in the present, not just the past. They round out our thinking. And the differences can be good. Thirdly, they're a good place to look for comrades. Think of them like your farm team. Okay? It's baseball season. I'm watching. Texas Rangers are leading their division right now. I hope they can. I hope they can do it. I don't think there's any way they're going to catch up with Tampa Bay. But think about all these ball clubs. The major league squad. They have got an extensive farm team system where if a player gets injured, they can call somebody up from AAA, AA, single. They call, and there's a system to it. 1A, Double A, triple A. Typically, major leagues don't call from 1A. They call from triple A ball. That's casuals. Okay? That's who they are. They're a farm team. And they keep us reaching out and they keep us growing. So I'll give you an example. My neighbor Kevin, he's my neighbor, and he's started off as a casual. We liked one another. We talked and stuff. Then, we had a conversation after the whole George Floyd stuff, and that's when we started golfing. And we enjoyed one another's company, and we come from vastly different walks of life. I have head covers made out of old baseball mitts, and he thinks that's the jankiest thing he's ever seen in his life. I walk barefoot across the street. He just calls me country. He was raised in L.A. I'm raised in Comanche. It's just different, right? And so, but out of playing golf and spending time, and that's our structure, we have a standing date where we go over to Sun City at 5 in the evening when nobody else is there, and we walk about 9 holes of golf. And his wife, Joanne, she says, "What do you and Cody talk about?" He goes, "Oh, we talk about all kinds of stuff. I love Cody." He goes, "Unless one of us is playing bad, then there's not very much conversation." Like we just know what the rules are. We know what they are. We know that, and we have this standing appointment. Like if nothing else comes up, Wednesday and Friday, we're going to spend time, playing golf together. There's a structure to it. And the other day, we're walking down, I think we're on the, 7th hole or something like that. We both hit drives. He didn't hit a good drive. I hit one that was decent. One of the rare times I had a drive better than his. And I still didn't beat him, and I'm still bitter about it, but it's fine. The Lord's working with me. So, but he looked over and he goes, "Man," he goes, "you're a really good friend." It's like, it's moving from this casual into this comrade type deal. You see what I'm saying? That's what you need. It takes time. Number 4, colleagues. This is the area of work. We're supposed to work productively, and we're supposed to work connected. Our work is cursed, but work itself is not evil. We need to understand that. Like your job, like wherever you go and work, whether it's for, you're dispatching and telling truck drivers where they're supposed to go west, or whether you're trying to figure out claims and stuff with Insurance Tom, or whether you're trying to help customers get their cars fixed over there at the Ford dealership Colin, or whether you're trying to keep a bank from failing Dave, whatever it is, your work has inherent and intrinsic value. Your work has intrinsic value. Where you spend most of your time and investing in that is your mission field. And you have colleagues, and one of the things that you should do as a Christian is be one of the best employees at that place of business or at that place of industry. Here's a question. At your job, at your work, what kind of culture are you creating? Or what kind of culture is it? Or what kind of culture are you trying to change it to? Or are you just going with the flow? What kind of culture is it? What kind of culture are you creating? This gets into this idea of professional versus personal vulnerability. You need to have vulnerability at work. You need to give them your heart and so you can lead them, but don't expect from people at work what you expect from family. And don't expect from colleagues what you would expect from comrades. It may take you some time. That's another place where some comrades that's another farm system. You're going to spend a lot of time around them, but you're probably going to have to spend some time outside of that. Okay, next one. These are the care fors. This is the idea of providing for others. So we need coaches to get expertise. We need comrades to build our life team. We need casuals. They make great acquaintances. They're a farm team for comrades. We need colleagues to do work with. But we also have care fors. This is the idea of providing for others. Here's just kind of a screen test for this. Care fors are people who have a legitimate need for some resource that you can provide. A legitimate need for some resource that you can provide. If you don't have the resource and you can't give it, guess what? There's no sense in doing that. You don't have what they need. Number two, they have no avenue to compensate you financially or otherwise. This is not care fors are not a mutual relationship. Like you're meeting a need that they have. You're caring for them. This is our children. Okay? Got a bunch of little care fors in our house. Okay? They're never going to compensate you. They're never going to, recompense you for all of the things that you've given. Your care for them and their benefit is the primary focus of the relationship. They take responsibility for the nutrients, the relational nutrients that you give them. So 5 questions to determine if you should care and to what extent. Because I feel like we do this a lot, and sometimes it gets into this where we get burnt out because we're operating on empty. Are they truly unable to do this thing that they're asking from you? Are they truly able unable to do this for themselves? Galatians chapter 6 verse 2 says this: bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. And then 3 verses later he says, for each will have his own load to bear. Is it a burden or is it a load? Help people determine that. If it's a burden, you need to help them. If it's just a load, well, maybe encourage them, but you may not have to get in there and get your hands on it. Are they truly unable to do this for themselves? Number 2, do you have the resources to help them? Do you have the time? Do you have the energy? Do you have the finances to spare for this help? Look at 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for the members of his own household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. What Timothy's talking about there in the context of giving is like, listen, you can't be so spiritually minded that you're helping everybody else out that you're neglecting your own family. You can't do that. You don't have the resources to spare for that. And he's encouraging the church there, or encouraging Timothy to encourage the church, like, hey, make sure that people aren't overextending themselves in caring for one another. There's a lot of needs in the early church. There's a lot of needs in this one, but make sure you're taking care of your family. Number 3, do they have skin in the game? 2 Thessalonians 3:10 says this: for even when we were with you, we would give you this command: if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. Like, man, that sounds harsh. Paul told the church, and just to understand the context of what's going on here, like a lot of people in the Thessalonian church thought that Jesus would come back any day, and because they thought Jesus was coming back any day, they said, well, there's no sense in going to work, so they just quit their jobs. And then Jesus didn't come back, but they got used to sitting on the couch all day. And then they started asking the church for help, and Paul's like, no! Tell those guys to get up off their tails and get back to work. Work as unto the Lord. If anyone's not willing to work, well, I guess he's going to go hungry. Like, there are motivations. There are intrinsic bodily motivations that move us to get out and do things. And they're good and they're right. It's good and right to have a little bit of hunger in your belly. That's not a bad thing. It motivates you to go get what you need. Number 4, will you feel cheerful if you say yes? 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Each one must give as he has decided in his own heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Are you doing this out of compulsion, or are you going to get genuine cheerfulness out of it? Number 5, is the outcome increased autonomy or increased dependency. There's a really good book, I can't remember the author's name, but it's called When Helping Hurts. And it talks about giving and how to weigh this through. It goes into a lot more depth of this, but it's a really, really good book. I'd recommend it to anybody. But Proverbs 30, verse 15 says this: "The leech has two daughters, give and give. Three things are never satisfied. Four never say enough." If you're helping this person, is it going to result in increased autonomy, like they're becoming more and more independent, not independent from the Lord, but less and less dependent on other people to meet their needs? This is the whole idea of like raising kids. This is what we want to do with kids, right? We want to raise them in such a way where they're becoming less and less dependent upon us. I mean, it is a glorious, glorious day when that little boy can go pee in the toilet. Right? Don't you just be like you just want to have a party. Let me tell you something. You got more good ones coming. The day that they can drive themselves to school. It's awesome. It's so good. And the thing is, they love to drive. They'll drive for any reason in the world. I'd like you to go get the groceries. I'd like you to go get this. You're giving autonomy. Now, listen, there's other stressors that come with it. I'm just telling you. But it's a marker. And that's the thing, is what we want to eventually send these kids out on their own. We want people who are care-fors eventually to be out there on their own as well, caring for others. Number 6, chronics. This is the idea. The idea here with chronics is you need to support them without enabling them. Here are 4 traits of a chronic: ongoing struggles, little insight regarding their part of the problem. They're blind to it. Number 3, dysfunctional behavior patterns. And number 4, harmless in intent, but harmful in impact. How you identify a chronic is I don't mean this to be harsh, because I realize that you may be think, golly, there's some things in my life that are chronic. I look at this too. There's some patterns in my life I'm like, these are chronic behaviors that I've got to get better at. What do I need to do? I need to get me a coach on this. I don't need to put this on my comrades. They probably going to share in some of it, but I need to get better at this. But I mentioned the Proverbs earlier. Proverbs says a lot about wise and foolish. It's a constant theme going back. And you see these things, and the reason it's so constant is because, it's a persistent problem in society. It was then, and it is now today. Proverbs 132. Solomon says, "For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroys them." This is that idea of like it's chronic. It's complacent. They're not doing anything to change. See what I'm saying? Proverbs 12:15. "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." A chronic is a person that if they come to you with a problem and you point out what's wrong and you try to show that to them, and then they argue with you about what's wrong. It's like, well, what'd you come to me for? Like, I love you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to point this blind spot out to you. But the way of a fool is right in his own eyes. A wise man listens to advice. So are you humble enough to listen to the advice and the counsel of others? Okay? And I would also ask this question. If this feels stinging to you, are you humble enough to listen to other people's opinions? The second thing, are you brave enough to take the step toward change that you need to? A lot of times we're humble enough to receive it. We get so broken down, but we don't have the courage to step out and make the change that we know is needed. So are you humble enough to receive correction? Are you brave enough to step out into the correction? To step into a new behavior pattern? Proverbs 17:24 says this: "The discerning sets his face towards wisdom, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth." This is like the idea of like you're so far out there looking out here, but you're not seeing the stuff right here in front of you. Now, it can also go the other way. You can be so focused on this thing here that you keep that, like the future completely out of perspective. You got to be able to see both. It's called depth perception. And we have to have both to drive a car. We have to have both to basically walk through life. And you need it like emotionally as well. Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Here's a good question. What do you do? Like, do you talk more than you listen? Okay? James says this. Everyone should be quick, slow to angry, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Everybody should be quick to listen. Everybody should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. That's what James tells us. Old country farmer said this way. He said, you need to listen twice as much as you talk because God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Proverbs 27:3 says this. A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Some chronics can change. I want to give you hope if you notice these chronic behaviors in your life and you're sitting there feeling like, golly, am I chronic? You can change. It's probably going to take a long time, but you can change. I want to give you hope. Okay? But I also want to give a warning, both for the person who perceives himself to be a chronic and for those who you perceive other chronics in your life. Unfortunately, some of them never change. And it is sad and it is tragic. But some of them do. And all of them can. Okay? Last one, contaminants. These are the people that you've got to quarantine yourself from. You've got to quarantine yourself and your resources from the contaminants. What is a contaminant? A contaminant is someone who intentionally harms others. They often have a deep envy of others, which they will often deny. And resenting the perception that all of the good is outside of oneself. That's what this is. It's like this deep resentment or this deep envy. Okay? Here's what you do with a contaminant. You love them. You got to love them. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 and 44, to love your enemies, to seek their good, seek their best, and to pray for them. So you can love them and you can pray for them. Okay? And you can do that from a safe distance. But you're also called to protect yourself. Matthew chapter 10, verse 14, if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake the dust from your feet when you leave that house. Jesus did not tell his disciples to stay there inside the house or in a town where they're just constantly just going to be trying to harm them. He didn't tell them to do that. He said, no, just leave. You don't have to stay there. Okay? So protect yourself. Tell them the truth. And this is going to be a hard thing, especially if you're dealing with a contaminant who's a narcissist. They ain't going to like it. And they will do everything they can to turn it back on you. But you got to tell them the truth. And you need to live in reality. You don't have to live according to their lies, according to their perceptions of who you are. Your identity is in Christ. We have this funny thing that we do in our staff all the time. I'm kind of like the Apostle Peter. Sometimes I have two filters. I have a filter for before I say it, and then I have a filter for after I say it. And that's too late. You need to filter it twice. And so sometimes I'll say things or do things and stuff like that, and the staff will give me they'll give me some, flack for that and stuff. And my funny answer is like, my identity's in Christ. And I say it about like that. And it's kind of comical and it's a joke, but it's also a gentle reminder for me that, yeah, my identity is in Jesus. It's what Jesus says about me is the most important thing about me. And what Jesus says about you is the most important thing about you. I hope you believe that. I hope you really let that sink down deep into your soul. Next, determine your response by their fruits. Only trust them when they have proven objectively and over time that they are trustable. Here's a story I'll tell here. I mean, there was in the book in People Fuel by John Townsend, talks about this guy who worked really hard. He built this company, and then he brought on one of his best friends, and the company went great. And then the best friend just totally cut him out of his own company. It's kind of like the social thing with Mark Zuckerberg. I want to say Gutenberg, and I'm like, no, he invented the printing press. It's not the same guy. But Zuckerberg, and all, it's kind of like that kind of story. But it wasn't that one. This guy cut him out of the company, and man, he was really hurt. He lost a lot of money. He lost all his time and his work, and he finally confronted him about it. And the guy just said, yeah, I just wanted it. No apology, no nothing, just very matter of fact. It's like, okay, that's a contaminant. So the guy is moving on, but he's having to work through some trust issues with people. That happens. How to rearrange. We moved from this, so you got to get rid of contaminants. But here's something a caveat. How do you rearrange the people in your life? What we might find as we go through this list, looking at coaches and comrades and casuals and care-fors and chronics and colleagues and contaminants, and look at all that, we may look at these bottom three and say, golly, I'm spending 80% of my time and my energy on these bottom three, and I'm only spending 20% of my time with people that are actually pouring into me and helping me become the person that I want to be, the person that Christ has made me to become. I got to figure out how to do this. And I would say you're onto something. You need to spend 80% of the time with the people who are going to build you, not people who are going to subtract from you. However, your tendency is going to be to go in there and say, oh, I'm making a list and I'm checking it twice. I got this one, and just fire off an email. You're out of my life. You're out of my life. You're out of my... Nope, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Add before you subtract. Add a coach or a colleague or a casual or a comrade or a casual before you start subtracting a care for or a chronic. Add to it. And what happens over time is as you add these other ones kind of fade out. And you'll have a support system for how to deal with those. You won't be doing it all on your own. Okay? Add before you subtract. Quality over quantity. Take your time. When in doubt, don't commit to a coach or a comrade. There needs to be chemistry there. You want quality, not about quantity. Caring for people, that's not a problem. We're called to do that as Christians. We're called to care for other people. Calendar the life-giving relationships. Put it on your calendar. Schedule it. Structure it. There is a freedom in being able to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have any time. It's calendared. But if you don't have it on your calendar, well, now you're in the awkward saying, no, I really don't want to be with you, but I have time, but I don't. Calendar the thing that you want. Get it on there. I have an appointment. I can't make that time. Calendar the life-giving relationships. Get support for having the pruning talks. The talks where you may have to cut a contaminant out of your life or have a hard conversation with somebody who is chronic or a care for where you think that, I think they can be doing this on their own now, but I'm still doing this. You're going to there are going to be some hard conversations, and it's okay. It'll probably go better than you think, and if it doesn't, you probably didn't need them anyway. Okay? So, how did Jesus do all this? How did Jesus deal with these types of people? He loved the contaminants. You do not have to be Jesus' enemy. If you're Jesus' enemy, that's because you are, not from him. But also understand, he will not be moved. He leads a convictional life. He knows who he is, and you're not going to change him. If there's any changing that has to happen, it has to be on your end. Jesus loved the contaminants. He loved the chronic enough to tell them the truth. What is Jesus showing you? What is Jesus showing you in your life? He cared for the multitudes in feeding them, in healing them, in delivering them. On the cross, he did for us what we could not do for ourselves. How has he cared for you? If you are a Christian, he has cared for you by dying on the cross for you, for doing for you what you could not do on your own. And I will tell you that if you're not a Christian, I want you to know that is available for you. It is available for you today. You can be a Christian. He called casual acquaintances to be his colleagues. He called Peter and James and John, these guys that he knew from town growing up, and eventually they became his friends. He says, I call you friends now. They were his comrades, and he coached them and he empowered them to take the message of the gospel across the entire planet. And that's how we got here today. So, are you progressing in your relationship with Jesus? Are you progressing in that relationship? Are you and Jesus just casuals? He wants more for you than that. He wants you to be a colleague and a comrade together with him on his mission. Okay? Here's another one. Do you let Jesus coach you? You're never going to coach him. Do you let him coach you? Do you spend time in his word? Let me pray for us, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We have communion coming up, and we invite, if you're a baptized believer, come forward, take the elements, and go back. But if you're not a believer, we invite you to believe. Have a conversation with one of us today before you leave here, okay? And then we're going to sing. Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for being the best coach, the best comrade, the best colleague. God, thank you for bringing us into relationship with you. God, would you help us pursue Christ-like relationships in our lives? Would you help us to be Christ-like in our relationships? In your good name we pray and ask for it. Amen.